play. So let's start with Kansas, Michigan State. The Jayhawks are ranked third in the AP poll, third to coaches poll. They're third at KenPom, consistent across the board. Spartans unranked in both polls, just barely. Although I have them ranked in the top 25 and 1. They are 22nd at KenPom. KU is listed, the number's out. KU is listed as a 4.5-point favorite. Deadleg, what are you most interested in looking forward to when it comes to this Kansas-Michigan State matchup?
Yeah, I understand why Duke Kentucky is getting tons more shine. That's understandable. But I'm plenty intrigued by this one as well because Michigan State and Kansas, what's the big broad theme of the night, the thread between all these teams, Kansas, worst season KenPom-wise ever under Bill Self. Michigan State, likewise, under Izzo. And then, obviously, Duke had its worst season in 25 years. Kentucky had one of its worst seasons in the history of the program, going back almost 90 years. So all four programs actually weirdly have something to prove heading into Tuesday night because they're coming off of subpar seasons for what their program standards are. So with that in mind, with Michigan State, I kind of wanted to see who's going to be the guy here, right? Because, as I understand it, it's been freshman Max Christie, who's been the team's best player over the past month in practice. Is he going to wind up being the most important player on the floor? Will it be a guy like Tyson Walker, Northeastern transfer? Will he be able in the first game? Like, is he going to be guarded by the likes of Ochai Agbaji, who I think will be the best defender on the floor there? And will he be able to handle that? We've talked plenty before. GP referenced it on a couple pods ago about traditionally, if you transfer up, and we're talking mid-major to true high major, and we're talking a top 25 level program, it's not that common that you can, in fact, it's rare that you can keep your statistics at about the level they were when you're playing that level below. I don't think anyone expects Tyson Walker to be a 19-7-4 guy or anything like that, but can he be a big-time impact player there? I don't know. Michigan State is coming off of its worst defensive season ever under Tom Izzo. Allowed 71.1 points per game last season. That's the most on a per-game basis the Spartans have ever allowed under Izzo. The previous high was 2016-17 when they allowed 68.7. So it wasn't like they were worse by a half point or a point. That's more than 2 full points per game. And how Michigan State's defense can try and bounce back after last season will be intriguing to me overall. So how MSU puts a team out there against what I think will be a pretty good Kansas defensive unit, Parrish, is my most intriguing thing because I don't know who the guy is going to be. Reminder, Michigan State lost Josh Langford after a wonderful 9-year career there. Aaron Henry, Rocket Watts is now at Mississippi State. Tom Skithier's gone. Foster Lawyer's down at Davidson. So there's plenty of new faces here, but there are returning guys. Like I want to see how good Gabe Brown can be. Joey Hauser, Marcus Bingham. Like there are still familiar players on this Sparty roster. I'll get to my pick in just a minute on this game. But for me, in the first game, my biggest curiosity just happens to land on Sparty's side. And who's going to be the guy? Are we going to come away from this game with the Michigan State win saying, man, Tyson Walker looks like he's ready, or yeah, Max Christie right away. What if Max Christie winds up being the best freshman story on a night where we don't think that's really all that remotely possible because of who Duke has on its roster? So I'm intrigued with that in addition to some other Kansas stuff. But what about you?
Yeah, I want to see Max Christie. I want to see Tyson Walker. That's a pretty interesting 1-2-3. If that's going to be the 1-2-3, Walker, Christie, Gabe Brown. Gabe Brown averaged like 7 points a game last season, shot 42% from three on 3.2 attempts. You would think his role increases a little bit. And then Joey Hauser is the leading returning scorer, 9.7 points and 5.6 rebounds per game. So it's an interesting core for Michigan State to have. And you're right about the Spartans. They were not good relative to what they normally are defensively last season. They weren't good offensively either. I mean, if they got to bounce back on defense, they got to bounce back on offense too. They were 98th in offensive efficiency and 64th in defensive efficiency, according to KenPom. If you can take both of those numbers into account, that's the worst Michigan State has been in the KenPom era that dates back to 2002. They were 11th seed in the NCAA tournament. That 64 KenPom number is the worst of the Tom Izzo era. So I think sometimes we were so focused last season on Kentucky being unusually bad and Duke being unusually average. And then Michigan State made the NCAA tournament. So it was like they're in the NCAA tournament. So like good season, but it was not a good season. They were not really a good team, certainly relative to where Tom usually operates that program. So you make a good point. that second game is all about Duke and Kentucky trying to have bounce back seasons, and Duke trying to do it in Coach K's final season. But Michigan State needs a bounce back season too. And Kansas, like you said, they weren't as good last season as they usually are either.
That's right. And Kansas will not, as a reminder, Kansas will not have Jalen Wilson in this game. He certainly figures to be one of the three most important players on that roster this season. He was suspended for drinking and driving, and so he will not play the first 3 games for the Jayhawks this season. So with no Jalen Wilson, perhaps the edge Kansas would have otherwise had isn't as big as some might think. But I don't know. We'll see. On the Kansas side, of course, Remy Martin comes over from Arizona State. He was the pick for preseason Big 12 Player of the Year. If you happen to be catching the podcast for the first time ever and are watching on video, or you just started to hop on, I mentioned last week, and I think I mentioned back when we had our Big 12 preview, I don't think that Remy Martin will wind up being Kansas's best player or most important player. I do think that will be Ochai Agbaji. Who he's assigned to defensively tomorrow night, I think will be plenty intriguing. So keep an eye on that. And then David McCormick down low, like a guy who made our top 101 players list with plenty of room to spare. And, how does Marcus Bingham go up against him? McCormick's a bigger body, more physical, but first game of the season, first night of the season. Can't wait for this. I'm just so excited. And part of that is, okay, how have the players that we know that we've seen for a year or 2 or 3, how have they gotten better, stronger, advanced their games, or have they? Surprises wait in store there. I do like Kansas's edge physically on the defensive end, I think, here, but no Jalen Wilson. We had to make our picks here, obviously, and for the site and all that. And GP is going to tee that up in just a second here. But no Wilson made me think a little bit more about how I would have gone with the game definitively, because not having him, I think Kansas can overcome it, but it's a significant player, potentially an all Big 12 league kind of guy who's not going to be available on Tuesday at MSG.
I would have probably gone Kansas, by 6, 7, 8 points, if everybody were available, but they're obviously not. Jalen Wilson, he was their 3rd leading scorer, leading rebounder last season. He was 2nd in the Big 12 in double-doubles. He's an important player. To not have him matters. I still think Kansas wins the game. I guess if we're picking it, I'd go Kansas 70, Michigan State 68. So that's a Kansas victory, but a Michigan State cover for me.
Okay. This is, by the way, this is the second time since Michigan State is not ranked. Only the first Champions Classic in 2011. And this one will have a game in which there is an unranked team. Otherwise, all the other ones, all 4 teams were ranked. It's somewhere in the poll between 1 and 25 heading into the season. They were all ranked. Michigan State is not. So that streak ends there. I am going to go Kansas to win. And I'm going to lean on the defense here, GP. I'm going to go 71-65. All right. So I'm going to take KU to win and to cover, and Kansas to show well defensively. That's my lean here. By the way, Champions Classic records. Kansas entering this is 5-5. Michigan State has the worst at 4-6. Kansas and Kentucky are both 5-5. Michigan State's 4-6 all time. Duke is 6-4. And in terms of heads up, Kansas is 1-2 in the Champions Classic, which means MSU is 2-1 versus Kansas. So KU looking to even the series in this event. But yeah, give me, even with no Wilson, give me Kansas. Not exactly going out on a ledge here. They're highly ranked. MSU is not in the AP top 25 as we head into this game. But when you bring back the likes of McCormick and Agbaji, and I give me the over-under on Remy Martin's field goal percentage from the game at 41.5, and I'll take the over, saying it'll be like 42%. That will be a big factor here, I think, for sure. But I think this will be a little bit bumpy, a little bit up and down, but I'll take Kansas to win with a little bit of comfort in the end.
So I picked Kansas. Norlander picked Kansas. Congratulations to Michigan State on starting the season 1-0. That's almost definitely how that's going to go.